So we continue with our circulatory system. So we have already seen then how the blood flows into the heart and in and out of the heart. Now we see the blood vessels which are connected to the heart. So we see the two ways. One is the one which is entering into the heart. What is entering the heart is called as a vein, and the one which is going away from the heart is called as an artery. So the blood vessels are branched tubes extending from the heart to other parts of the body. They are of three kinds: arteries, capillaries, and veins. An artery is a vessel which carries blood away from the heart towards any organ. So when the blood goes from the heart to an organ, then it is an artery. So if you see that if this is the heart and this is the organ, so if the blood is going from the heart to the organ like this, then this is the artery. Okay, and when it is going from the organ to the heart, then this, so if it is coming like this, then it is the vein. Okay, don't see the okay, the blood is going to enter here. वैसा सोचो ना, ऐसे इधर schematic diagram बनाया. So that way you can see the artery is now. So blood away from the heart to the organ, artery. So artery, इसका specification is there thick muscular walls. Now arteries are the one which are going to be taking that much amount of pressure which is being exerted by the auricle, so by the ventricle. You very well know that the left ventricle which is there, the left ventricle is going to exert so much of pressure and going to push the blood upwards, because it needs to pressurize it and force the blood out, because it needs to reach the height of the person. Means उसको एक तो toes तक भी जाना है और against the gravity उसको brain तक भी जाना है. So that's why it needs to be under pressure. So when the blood is under pressure, the tube which is carrying the blood has to also be thicker. Otherwise, it will not sustain and it will tear off. So इसलिए the blood vessels which are used automatically needs to be much thicker. So that's why thick muscular walls. A narrow lumen. Lumen is nothing but the inner bore, inner diameter of the. So if I talk about the artery, so artery will be like this. This is the artery, like this. यानी क्या? Thicker walls. But the lumen over here, this is the lumen. This particular part inside is the lumen. Okay, a narrow lumen, but thicker walls. So accordingly, you see that the layers are given this way. There is the external layer over here. This is the external layer. The outer part is the external layer. Okay. Then there is a middle layer, which is the smooth part. This is a middle layer over here. This is a middle layer. And then the inner part over here is the endothelium. The endothelium is the inner lining of the artery. Similarly, if I draw a vein, the vein will be like this. It will be like this, which will be having a wider lumen. So the lumen is wider, but the walls are very thin. So thin walls, but wider lumen in case of the, otherwise they do have the middle layer and the external layer, but of course the middle layer is thin. A vein is a vessel which conveys the blood away from the organ towards the heart. So when it is away from the organ towards the heart, away from the organ towards the heart is the vein. Okay. Thin muscular wall, a wider lumen. The blood in this flows uniformly. See, in this case, sorry, I forgot to read that part. This has got a narrow lumen, that is the central bore. The blood is flowing in the spurts, which corresponds to the ventricular contraction of the heart. See, when the ventricle contracts, ऐसा नहीं कि continuous pressure आ रहा है. कैसा होता है? लब डब ऐसे होता है. तो ये भी जब यहाँ पे pressure आता है, जब ये pressure आया, at that time the blood is going to flow in a spurt. उसके बाद फिर से रिलैक्स हुआ, फिर से प्रेशर आया तो स्पर्ट. यानी क्या हुआ कि ब्लड विल ऑलवेज फ्लो ठप ठप ठप, इस तरह से फ्लो होगा. इसीलिए द वेन्स के आर्टरीज के अंदर ब्लड विल ऑलवेज ट्रैवल इन स्पर्ट्स में जाएगा, राइट. वेयरएज यहाँ पे क्या है, यूनिफॉर्म, आराम से ब्लड पास हो रहा है, धीरे से पास हो रहा है. ओके, इट इज नॉट इन स्पर्ट्स. दैट्स व्हाई हियर इट विल बी मोर रिलैक्स्ड. So blood flows in uniformly, and It contains thin pocket valves whose opening face the direction of the heart. These valves prevent the backflow of the blood. Now, these ones are like this. अभी ये जो पूरा का समझो एक है कि पैर में से हार्ट के ऊपर जा रहा है. तो this will have valves over here like this. There will be valves over here like this. ऐसे valves रहेंगे. इधर ऐसे valves रहेंगे. Why will there be valves over here? So that when the blood is flowing upwards, it allows it. But if the blood flow is not proper and it is trying to go down, at that time this will puff up and it will stop the blood from going in the opposite direction. So the blood will always be able to go in the direction towards the heart. Blood will not flow in the opposite direction. It has to flow only towards the heart. That is how the arrangement of the valves are kept inside the valve. Another thing is that the blood over here is not in the pressure. Because it's not in the pressure, इसीलिए उसको against the gravity ऊपर travel करना है. Against the gravity ऊपर जब travel करना है, तो it is only possible when it has got a bit of pressure, but it has got valves to not allow it to go backwards. Okay, so thin pocket valves whose opening face the direction of the heart. These valves prevent the backflow of the blood. The smallest or the final branch of an artery is called as arteriole. The arterioles are highly muscular and can change the diameter manifolds. The arteriole breaks into capillaries. So it can be seen this way that समझिए आर्टरी है, आर्टरी यहाँ पे बहुत सारे में डिवाइड होगी, it becomes arterioles and the arterioles become capillaries. यहाँ से दूसरे capillaries आएंगे. These capillaries are connected over here. These capillaries are going to form into venules and then venules से vein बनेगा and goes to the heart. So heart, arteries, arterioles, capillaries. Capillaries, venules, veins, heart. This is how the blood is going to travel in the body. A capillary is a very narrow tube, about 8 micrometer in diameter. Its wall consists of single layer of squamous epithelium, endothelium, and has no muscles. The total number of blood capillaries present in the whole body is almost invincible. It is very, very large. In fact, ऐसा बोलते हैं that if all the blood capillaries of the blood are placed end to end in a row, they would extend to the length of 1 lakh kilometers. Their total wall surface would be more than 500 square meters. So yeah, it will. If I just take all the capillaries together and tie them up, it will be as long as 1 lakh kilometers. In the total surface, it has 500 square meters. Wow. Function of the capillaries: to allow outward diffusion of oxygen into the intercellular fluid and from there into the tissue cells. So yeah, the main thing is that the capillaries, the small tiny ones, they are the one which are going to do the exchange of oxygen. So the diffusion of the oxygen from the blood into the tissue fluid is going to take place through the capillaries. Similarly, the inward diffusion of the carbon dioxide from the cell into the blood is going to take place in the capillaries. So to allow inward diffusion of the carbon dioxide from the intercellular fluid. Third, to allow inward and outward diffusion of substances like glucose, amino acids, urea, hormones, etc. So apart from that, apart from the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, there are also so many nutrients which need to go in and out of the capillaries, because अगर digestive system है तो nutrients अंदर आएंगे, और अगर समझो वो कुछ excretory system है तो वो सब बाहर जाएंगे. तो depending upon what is the particular place, it will allow the gaseous exchange, or not the gaseous exchange, the substance exchange, or it is allowing the inward and outward diffusion of the amino acids, glucose and urea, etc. And fourth is the WBC, leukocytes का बाहर निकलने का entry. Yes, to allow leukocytes, that is WBC, to squeeze out through the capillary walls by means of amoeboidal movement, that is the diapedesis. The capillaries have power of dilating, vasodilation, and contracting, vasoconstriction, which respectively increases or decreases the flow of supply to the body parts. So evidence of these changes is capillaries is seen in the color of the skin. Walk in the hot sun, face becomes pink, that is the increased flow of blood, and when you are in cold, face becomes bluish because of the reduced blood flow. The capillaries gradually reunite and increases in size, assuming the three layers, that is connective tissue layer, muscular layer and the endothelium, as in artery and veins. The smallest united common branch is called as a venule. The venule joins to form large veins compared with arterioles, and venules are larger with much weaker muscular coat. So as I told you, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins. But of course these are not muscular and they are weak muscles. So we can differentiate between arteries and veins. Definition wise, blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart into the organ is artery. Blood vessels which carry blood away from the organ towards the heart is the vein. There is an exception over there, that is a hepatic portal vein. We will understand it later. Structure wise, arteries progressively branch, decreasing in size. Veins progressively unite, increasing in size. Smallest artery breaks into arterioles. Smallest vein arises from venules. Have thick and more muscular walls. Yeah, thick and more muscular walls. Whereas over here, they have thin and less muscular walls. Walls are elastic. Walls are non-elastic. Have a narrow lumen. Have a wider lumen. Have no valves in their inner lining. So there are no valves over here. There are no valves in the arteries. Whereas have valves in the inner layer to prevent the backflow of the blood. Arteries can constrict or deviate to control blood flow. So vasoconstriction with dilation हो सकता है arteries में. Cannot constrict in case of veins. Arteries are usually deeper seated. Now, the arteries are always seated deeply. वो ऐसा ऊपर में दिखता नहीं है. Always अंदर रहता है. क्यों? Because they need to be under, they are under high pressure. तो अगर वो high pressure में उभार रहेगा तो it is a possibility of damage is very high. So that's why they are always deeply seated, because they are under high pressure. So yeah, usually deeply seated, whereas the veins usually more superficial near the skin. Arteries do not collapse when empty. When they are empty, they don't collapse because the thicker lumen will not, the thicker kind of a muscular wall will not allow it to get constrict or pressed completely. So it will never collapse. Whereas veins collapse when empty. Blood flows with jerks under great pressure. Whereas here blood flows continuously under very little pressure and carries fully oxygenated blood. Arteries always carries fully oxygenated blood except for pulmonary artery, whereas over here carries always partially deoxygenated and carbon dioxide laden blood except pulmonary vein. Okay, so this was the differentiation between arteries and the veins. So now we see that the blood is going to circulate in our body in two systems. One is the pulmonary system, that is heart to lungs, lungs to heart. That is the pulmonary system. So you'll always find that if you consider this one itself, so you will find one is like this, that if this is the lungs, so one system is from heart to lungs and lungs to heart. Another system is from heart to body. So this is the body. And so it is this way, heart to body and body to heart. So this is one system, this is another system. This is called as pulmonary system. Anything related to heart, anything related to the lungs is pulmonary. Pulmonary means lungs. So that's why pulmonary system is related to the lungs. And this one over here is called as systemic system. Systemic is the one which is connected to the body. So system, the body is systemic system, circulation. So yeah, that's why we have got, the body contains, our human body has got double circulation. At the same time there are two circulations taking place. That's why it's double circulation. One circulation is between the heart and the lungs to the heart. That is one circulation, that is pulmonary circulation. Another one is the heart to the body and body to the heart. That is the systemic circulation. This both are taking place simultaneously. That's why it is called as a double circulation. The general plan of the body circulation in our body is shown in the figure. Blood flows twice in the heart before it completes one full round. The short pulmonary lung circulation and the long systemic circulation. For this reason, the blood circulation in the human body is also called as double circulation. The pulmonary circulation pertains to the lungs. It starts in the pulmonary artery, arises from the right ventricle, which soon divides into branches, then enters the respective lungs. Pulmonary vein collects the oxygenated blood from the lungs and carry it to the left auricle. So that is from the heart to the lungs and lungs to the heart. The systemic circulation pertains to the major circulation of body into the body. It starts from the aorta that rises from the left ventricle. The aorta arcs back and continues behind as aorta, and the aorta sends arteries to various bodies parts and their tissues. From there, the blood is collected by the veins and poured back into the heart. That is the systemic circulation. There is one more circulation over here which is called as the hepatic portal circulation system. The veins starting from the muscle and the intestine do not directly convey the blood to the posterior vena cava. Instead, they first enter the liver as a combined hepatic portal vein. There it breaks into capillaries in contrast to the general characteristics of the vein, and new vein called hepatic vein is formed by the reunion which joins the posterior vena cava. By definition, therefore, a portal vein is one which starts with the capillary and ends with the capillary. So, in case of a portal vein system, so what is given over here is that hepatic portal system is a system in which from the stomach, the blood comes into the stomach, okay? और stomach में आने के बाद में it needs to go, so it should go directly into the superior vena cava or inferior vena cava, but it doesn't go that way. It doesn't go to the vena cava, but instead it goes to the liver. Why? Because whatever blood is there, it needs to, whatever is the glucose content और जो भी nitrogenous waste बनाना है, वो जो भी है वो सब कुछ liver में होने वाला है. That's why the blood from the stomach and the intestine doesn't go directly to the vena cava. It goes to the liver first for the storage thing, and then it forms into a portal vein, and then it goes into the vena cava. That is the hepatic vein. So accordingly, there will be one particular vein which starts from the stomach and the intestine and goes into the liver. So it starts from the capillaries of the stomach and intestine and goes into the capillaries of the liver. So that's why it starts from the liver, starts from the capillary, ends in the capillary. So such a kind of the vein which is starting from the capillary, ending with the capillary, is a portal vein. So portal vein is the one which starts from a capillary and ends with the capillary. And the example over here is the hepatic portal vein. Hepatic means something related to liver. So when it is related to liver, it will be hepatic. So hepatic portal vein is from the stomach to the liver. So accordingly, we see here the main blood vessels. तो उसमें आया heart में कौन सा है? तो blood. So there is a table over here that is anterior vena cava from the upper part of the body into the right atrium. It is formed by the union of the jugular veins and the subclavian veins. Posterior vena cava from the lower part of the body into the right atrium. Pulmonary vein, two veins from each lungs into the left atrium. So these are the blood entering into the heart. Blood leaving the heart, pulmonary artery from the right ventricle to the lungs, and aorta from the left ventricle to the other parts of the body. Liver, now this is important. Blood vessel entering the liver. There are two blood vessels entering the liver. One is the hepatic artery, which is from the heart directly to the liver. So from heart to liver is hepatic artery. From the aorta to the liver. Whereas hepatic portal vein from the stomach and intestine to the liver. So liver में stomach और intestine से भी जो artery जाता है, that is called as the hepatic portal vein. And then from the liver to the heart, there is nothing hepatic vein, that is the liver to the posterior vena cava. And for the kidney, it is renal artery from the heart of the kidney and renal vein for the kidney to the vena cava. So that is the different one. So utility of the hepatic portal system is the food absorbed by the stomach and intestine is first brought to the liver, which acts like a store to regulate the quantity of nutrients flowing into the general blood circulation. For example, excess sugar is stored as glycogen. Also, certain poisons, if absorbed through the food, are detoxified, rendering harmless in the liver. So, liver does a very important function over there to see to it that what is the nutrition which is got, and accordingly store them or give it to the body or render it harmless. जो भी करना है वो सब liver करने वाला है. That's why it plays a very important role for the body. Hence the hepatic portal system is very important. You cannot allow the blood directly from the stomach and the intestine to the heart, but you have to pass it through the liver, so that all the discretion, it is the liver's discretion what is the quantity of blood, what is the quantity of the glucose, or what is the quantity of nutrients or the poison जो भी है वो सबको कैसे render harmless करके करना, वो सब liver काम करने वाला. So that was about the hepatic system. Now we see the pulse. So the pulse is the arteries, on account of their elastic muscular walls, distend every time blood is forced through them. Due to the contraction of the heart, this distension can easily be felt by pressing your finger gently over the artery that is has up to come up superficially, such as a radial artery on the wrist on the side of the thumb. So counting on the pulse is directly the counting of the heartbeat. The pulse rate increases due to physical exercise or even under certain emotions. Pulse is the alternate expansion and elastic recoil of the walls of the artery during ventricular systole. This is how you count it. So pulse is nothing but the feeling of how the spurts of the blood is passing through a body. So for that we are going to check the pulse. Normally we can check the pulse easily over here. So ये thumb का जो part है, वो thumb के part से अगर हम लोग इधर लेके जाके इधर लेके आए, and then we place our two fingers over here, you will feel a kind of jerks or small kind of pulse which is feel over here. So that is nothing but the pulse. Now this pulse is exactly connected to your heartbeat. जितना heartbeat अपना होता है उतना ही यहाँ पे pulse मिलेगा. So you can easily feel it over here. You can just try it over yourself over here. You will feel the pulse over here. So this pulse, what you see, is nothing but the beats of the heart. So that is exactly the beats of the heart which is going to take place because of the ventricular systole. So ventricular systole when takes place, you are going to jerk और उसके हिसाब से यहाँ पे वो pulse देगा. Another thing is blood pressure. The blood pressure is the pressure which the blood flows into the arteries exerted on the walls. There are two limits of the pressure. The upper limit is the systolic pressure. That is the one when the push is there, when the high pressure is there. That is the push, that is the upper limit, that is the systolic pressure, which is at the time when fresh blood is pushing to the arteries as a result of the ventricular contraction of the heart. The lower limit is the diastolic pressure. It is the one recorded when the wave has passed, and the normal blood pressure for the adult is 100 to 140 mm in the systolic and 60 to 80 mm for diastolic. A rise in the blood pressure above 140 and 90 is known as hypertension. So whenever the person has got the blood pressure above 140, then it is 140, and on the lower side more than 90, then we call that person to be suffering from hypertension. Okay, the high BP, high blood pressure or hypertension is the condition when the blood pressure is above 90 in the lower limit and 140 in the upper limit. That is hypertension. Now so this was about the blood and the circulation of blood. Now we see the next part, that is the tissue fluid and the lymph. Tissue fluid or the intercellular fluid. As the blood flows in the capillary of the tissue, the plasma and the leukocytes leak out through the walls. This fluid bathes the cells and is called the tissue fluid or the intercellular or extracellular fluid. It is from this fluid that the cells absorb oxygen and other required substances, and in turn give out carbon dioxide and other waste back into it. So you will see that those places where the blood cannot move or cannot reach, and those places the tissue fluid and the lymph are going to be sending the WBCs and the nutrients and to bathe the cells completely by the tissue fluid, and so the carbon dioxide and everything is going to be carried from there to into the blood, and from the oxygen from there to that part is going to be done with the help of the tissue fluid. Lymph in the lymphatic system. Some of the tissue fluids may be reabsorbed in the blood vessel, but most of it enters another set of minute channels named lymph vessels, where it is called the lymph. The main lymph vessels are shown in the figure. The lymph flows in these vessels due to contraction of the surrounding muscles. This again is a beneficial effect of physical exercise. So normally the lymph is not having any kind of system, but there are certain kind of a lymph systems. So somewhere over here, then somewhere near the spleen, and there are so many different areas where that lymph vessels are there, the lymph nodes are there, through which they under the pressure surrounding the pressure के हिसाब से it is going to enter into the bloodstream. So lymph, which is the fluid which is there in the surrounding areas where the blood is not going to be there, वो भी जब वापस blood के अंदर आना है उसको, तो it is going to be taking place through this particular lymph vessels. So these lymph vessels are allowing the you can say the purification of the lymph is taking place through the lymph vessels. The lymph vessels are the way drain lymph into the lymph nodes, from where fresh lymph arise and ultimately pour the lymph into the major anterior veins close to their entry into the right auricle and again in circulation. So yes, the lymph also needs to circulate, but takes a longer time. It is not the normal apna 6 liter of blood, but it is the lymph which is there inside the different areas of the body. So वहाँ से it goes into the lymph vessels and enters into the veins, and then from there it enters into the vena cava and gets pumped again. So this is how the the lymph is going to circulate. Now the composition of lymph is very simple. It's a circular part which has got a cellular part which is only leukocytes. So most lymphocytes are no blood platelets. It does not have any platelet. It has only white blood cells. Non-cellular part में water, yeah, 94% is water, and solid will be proteins and some fats and carbohydrates, enzymes, antibodies, etc., which will be there in the non-cellular part. Function of the lymph, the first one is nutritive, of course, mainly nutrition को हर एक जगह पे पहुंचाना, that is the main था. So that is supply nutrition and oxygen to those parts which where blood cannot reach. Blood cannot reach each and every part of the body. So because capillaries are only to a certain extent. उसके बाद में आगे क्या है? आगे it will be the work of the lymph to take the nutrients and the oxygen from that part of the different parts of the body. So that's why the lymph plays majorly the part of nutritive, the nutritive part, because it is taking the nutrition and the oxygen to the different smallest area where the blood cannot reach. Second is drainage. It drains away excess tissue fluid and metabolites and return protein into the blood from tissue spaces. So जो टिश्यू स्पेसेस में भी वहाँ पे भी जो मेटाबॉलिज्म होता है उसमें भी बहुत सारा वेस्ट जनरेट होगा, तो वो वेस्ट जनरेट जो हुआ है उसको भी वापस ड्रेन आउट करने के लिए टू गेट इट इनटू द एक्सक्रीटरी सिस्टम सो दैट इट कैन बी थ्रोन आउट फ्रॉम द बॉडी, दैट इज द ड्रेनेज वर्क इज डन बाय द lymph. Next is absorption. Fats from the intestine are absorbed through lymphatics. So that is from the intestine, the fats are going to be absorbed from the lymphatics at the luteal cell. If you remember the diagram of the villi in case of the digestive system in the last year's chapters. So 9th standard में तुमने कहा villi था, villi के बीच में एक lymph node था, that was the luteal cell. So that particular thing is the what we are talking about, the absorption of the fats. Fourth one is the defense. Of course, there are lymphocytes or leukocytes over here, so WBCs, so fight to karne wale hain, so that's why defense. Lymphocytes and monocytes of the lymph function to defend the body. The lymphatic also remove the bacteria from the tissues. Haven't you ever experienced a painful swelling in your groins or in the axil of the arms where you get a boil or injury in a limb? This is protective sign. So if you get a boil in your underarm over here or in the groin over here, तो वो जो होता है, that is nothing but a defense mechanism of fighting a particular kind of infection. So ये जो भी है, it is just a boil which is going to come out when there is a defense mechanism taking place. The lymph node tends to localize the infection and prevent it from spreading to the body as a whole. The tonsils on the sides of the neck are also lymph. Yeah, this is very common to you all. Lymph tonsils तो पकते ही रहेंगे तुम लोग के. तो वो tonsils जो पके वो क्या है? That is nothing but the method by which you are not allowing the spreading of the infection into the body and you are curtailing that infection right over here. So the tonsils are the lymph nodes which are stopping or defending the infection from going into the body. The next we see is the spleen, which is the largest lymphatic organ. So the spleen is a large lymphatic organ about the size of a clenched fist, again heart ke jitna, reddish brown in color and situated in the abdomen behind the stomach and above the left kidney. So left kidney और stomach के बीच में, okay, left kidney और stomach के बीच में, यहाँ पे behind, पीछे, वहाँ पे spleen है, this much size के. Function wise, it acts like a blood reservoir in an emergency such as hemorrhage, physical or emotional stress, or in carbon monoxide poisoning. The spleen releases stored blood into the bloodstream. So bloodstream, if at all due to any reason there is a possibility that the blood content is decreased in the blood vessels in the body, then the spleen is going to generate or give out the excess of because it is a blood reservoir, so it will give away that particular blood to the body so as to make the body self-sufficient for the blood. It produces lymphocytes. It destroys worn out red blood cells, sharing the function of with the liver. And in embryo state, it produces RBC. So these are the four important functions of the spleen. First was the reservoir. Second was producing the lymphocytes. So lymphocytes are produced in the spleen. It destroys the RBCs. So as we see in the RBC part of the chapter that spleen ke andar bhi it destroys the RBCs. And finally is in the embryo stage, when the baby stage, when the humans hote hain, at that time it produces RBCs. Now, I said the next part is not so important, but we can just go through this thing. So when you see any particular blood sample under microscope, you need to put some kind of a stains. What we studied during the WBC part, कि हम लोग ने कोई particular stain use किया तो जिसके कारण it was neutral dye or acidic dye which was staining the granules and all. So these are the different kinds of stains which you will need to use to identify that how many WBCs and how many RBC or how many lymphocytes and leukocytes and basophils are there over there. So उसके लिए you need to what you are doing over here is take two clean slides, glass slides are taken, clean the skin of your finger and take a prick with a sterilized blade and needle. So we are taking it, clean it and take a needle and pin it so it does a drop of water, blood निकलेगा बाहर. Wipe off the blood, first blood which oozes out. Gently squeeze the fingertip and take a drop of the blood near the right end of your slide. Immediately put the second slide held at an angle of 60 degrees over the first slide and close to the drop of and pull it gently to touch the drop. Wait until the blood gets evenly distributed across the touching margins of the second slide. Now push the second slide over the first slide and in a quick beat take it off. So क्या करना है? ये स्लाइड लिया, इसके ऊपर एक ड्रॉप ऑफ ब्लड ooze out करके डाला. सेकेंड स्लाइड लिया, ये स्लाइड है दूसरा वाला, इसको ऐसे रखा, इसको ऐसे प्रेस करके स्लाइड कर दिया. ओके, so that you are getting a very thin layer of blood on here also and on this one also. Now push the second slide over the first down smoothly and a quick bit and take it off. A very fine layer of blood will be formed on the first slide and that is the blood smear or the blood film. Allow the blood smear to dry and stain it with Leishman stains. Leishman stain is a kind of a stain which is used to to stain the different organelles of the blood cell. Cover the smear with a few drops of stain. After 2 minutes, add an equal volume of distilled water. Allow the mixture to remain for another 2 minutes. Pour off the mixture and carefully rinse in tap water. Examine under the microscope after the slide is dry. You will find the cells as shown in the figure. So that's how you will be able to see the different figures of the eosinophils and erythrocytes and neutrophils, lymphocytes, basophils, blood platelets, and monocytes. All everything will be seen easily in the microscope of that particular blood sample. So this was about the chapter. So this is the end of the chapter circulatory system. Okay, go through this properly. Very important chapter. It is something, and mainly once you go through this chapter, do very well go through the structural application skill type questions. This kind of questions are the 5-mark questions which they normally ask in boards or even in prelims. So that's why these questions are very, 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 very important. The one which are given over here as under the heading of E, structured application skill type questions, they are very, very important. They are normally the 5-mark questions or the sub question of a particular bio paper. So bio papers में section B जो होता है उसके अंदर जो 10 मार्क्स का जो क्वेश्चन होते हैं उसमें 5 मार्क्स के ऐसे क्वेश्चन होते हैं विच विल बी 5 क्वेश्चंस गिविंग यू 5 मार्क्स. सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट. सो डू गो थ्रू दोज पर्टिकुलर थिंग्स. सो दैट वाज एंड ऑफ circulatory system. Thank you.